Hi everyone, welcome back. In today's video, I want to dive into something that I think a lot of us need to hear, especially when we're in that place of uncertainty, when we're not quite sure what step to take, when we're not clear on how the bigger picture of our lives is going to unfold. It's really about learning how to move forwards when you don't know what the right move is, and about how to trust the process that is always unfolding for you. Because here's the truth. Life is never about needing to figure it all out from where you stand right now. You're never supposed to have the whole map in front of you. What you are supposed to do is to hold the overarching story, the bigger vision of where you want your life to head, the general sense of what the ideal outcome looks like for you, while at the same time just picking whatever feels like your very real physical preference in this moment. And I really want to stress that word physical, because sometimes in the spiritual community, people think that preference means some sort of lofty ideal, like what's the most enlightened thing to do, or what's the highest vibrational option. But it's not about that. It's about the grounded, lived sense of what genuinely do I prefer to choose out of the physical options that are available to me right now. Because a lot of the time, what happens with these spiritual teachings, at least this is what I've found in my own life, is that we get so caught up in trying to manifest what we want that we lose that sense of noticing in a very physical, real sense, that feeling of, I prefer this more than that. This thing feels better to me than that does. Actually, it's not that we lose it as such, it's that we get so caught up in our visualizing and imagining and in being focused on controlling our thoughts and emotions and in saying our affirmations that we stop paying attention to that part of us that is telling us very clearly which step to take next. We drown it out with all the noise going on in our head. We kind of get lost in the fog. And so what I'm encouraging you to do today is to come back to that part of yourself, to learn to be present again. Now, I'm not saying to completely put aside all the spiritual teachings and to stop trying to manifest anything. What I'm saying is that the best way to manifest what you want is to absolutely set your desired outcome first using whatever technique you like to use, whether that's visualizing, saying affirmations, scripting, or simply just choosing, whatever works for you. But then once you've done that, that is now in place. And you need to bring your focus back to the present so that you can sense what is the next step to take right now in this moment. Because if you don't do that, and you keep focusing only on that end point, you will never allow yourself to walk along the path that you have now created for yourself by setting the end point. It's a bit like when you're using a GPS device. When you decide that you want to go to some particular location, you first enter the destination and you just do that once. You enter it, maybe you check it to make sure it's correct, and then the system generates the path from where you are now to that location, right? And then when you've done that, you need to bring your focus back to the present, to the starting point, and start following whatever the first directive is that is being given to you by the device. And manifesting what you want is the same thing. You set the outcome, but once you've done that, you almost need to forget about that endpoint. And you need to bring your focus back to the here and now, so that you can engage with your current position and your current situation and start moving from this point and making your way all the way to your desired endpoint. And in this case, the device that is telling you what step to take next is your internal preference that is telling you which action or activity feels best to do next, right now, physically, in this moment. So let's take a simple example. Let's say you're in a situation where you need money coming in. And your options right now are either to take a job that feels just okay, or to not have a job at all and have no money coming in. Now, if you sense within yourself that doing the job, even though it's not your dream job, even though it's not what you ultimately want to end up doing, feels better than sitting at home stressing about how you're going to pay your bills, then that is the option to go with. Not because that job is your forever path, not because the universe wants you to settle, not because you've given up on your bigger vision, but simply because in this moment, that is the option that feels best out of the options that are physically available to you right now. And what happens, and I've seen this play out in my life many, many times, is that once you take that step, once you choose the option that feels right in the moment, the next stepping stone inevitably shows up. And most of the time, this all happens very naturally. You see, when we get into these teachings, sometimes we start to think that things need to show up in ways that feel miraculous. But what I've found is that actually it all looks very, very normal most of the time. It could look like taking a job today and then eventually becoming so fed up with that job that it gives you the push you need to finally go all in on something that you truly care about. Or it could be that the job you take turns out to be a hidden doorway. I've had jobs that felt quite small scale at the time, but the skills I learned there ended up completely changing the direction of my life and bringing me opportunities later that I never would have had I not been in that small scale job in the past. So you see, it's not about sitting still and waiting for a miracle. It's about allowing yourself to be guided and allowing things to be orchestrated for you to get you to exactly where you want to go. And the interesting thing is, while you're in it, you can't see the bigger orchestration that is happening. From the human level, it just looks like random choices and random things happening. But when you look back later, you'll see so clearly how each choice, even the ones that didn't seem ideal at the time, was being used to set things up perfectly in exactly the way that was most conducive to get you to go in the direction that you needed to go. That's how this works. The higher self, God, the part of you that is outside of time and space, it already knows the entire design. It already knows the fastest, most harmonious, most fulfilling path for you to reach the outcome you want. And it will keep nudging you along that path, not by giving you the whole plan up front, but by making one option feel lighter, easier, better, more exciting, more natural than other options. Now, to tie this back to Neville Goddard, he often said, go to the end, meaning live from the assumption that what you ultimately desire is already yours, already accomplished. That's the overarching story. But Neville never said that once you've assumed the end, you have to control every detail of how you get there. He always left that part to what he called the bridge of incidents. And that bridge of incident is exactly what I'm describing here. It's the sequence of steps, people, jobs, choices, and so-called coincidences that unfold once you've set the vision, and you're simply following your preferences moment by moment. So the key is this: set the end, but don't try to control or understand what the whole series of bridges is going to look like. Just step on the stone that feels right now, and then take the next step and the next and the next. And if you do this, you'll be blown away by how perfectly everything unfolds and gets put in place, because you'll be walking along this path that has been designed in exactly the most ideal way to bring about everything you want and to give you the journey that is the most fulfilling it can possibly be for you. And please hear me on this. Whatever you're choosing right now, it's just a stepping stone. It doesn't have to be forever. You always have a choice. And if you find that you've stepped into something you don't like, you can immediately choose to step back or keep going forwards. Whatever. There is never a risk that if you make a move, you are now doomed to stay in that place forever. I know how easy it is to slip into the fear that if you take a job or move to a city or enter into a relationship, you're going to be locked into it. But nothing in this life works that way. Everything is fluid. Everything is just a stepping stone. So the job you take now doesn't have to be your forever job. The city you move to now doesn't have to be your forever city. The relationship you start now doesn't have to be your forever relationship. Each one is just a step that's getting you to the next unfolding. Unless, of course, you find that you really like where you are, in which case you absolutely can choose to stay put right where you are and reset the destination to your current location. So once you start seeing it this way, once you understand that everything is part of the unfolding, the pressure lifts. You don't have to figure out the whole future. You just have to decide what feels best right now and do that. Let me give you a few simple everyday examples so you can see how this plays out. Let's say you feel torn between staying home to work on your business idea or going out to meet a friend. You might be thinking, if I don't work on the business, I'll fall behind. But when you check in with yourself, you feel a stronger pull to go and see your friend. And then when you go, that friend casually mentions someone they know who ends up becoming your first client. Or maybe you're wondering if you should move to a new city. You don't know if it's the right move, but the thought of staying where you are feels heavy, while the thought of moving feels lighter, more exciting. So you go. And maybe the very first week in that new city, you stumble upon a community or an opportunity that feels like it's exactly what you were looking for. Or it could be as small as what to eat for dinner. You might be thinking, I should eat a salad. But you notice that what feels best is some pasta. And because you choose that and allow yourself to enjoy it, you end up feeling nourished and satisfied, which puts you in the perfect mood to later create the most beautiful piece of art you've ever created. So it's not about making the logical choice. It's about the alignment with the feeling in the moment. Now, here's the magical part. In hindsight, you'll always see how perfectly it was all being orchestrated. You'll look back and realize, oh, that job that I thought was just a placeholder actually introduced me to the very skill set I needed for the next thing. Or that city I moved to opened me up in ways I didn't expect, even though I didn't stay there long. Or that relationship that didn't last forever actually taught me the exact thing I needed to know to be prepared for being with my soulmate. In the moment, it might not make sense, but looking back, you'll see how cleverly it was all being set up all along. And that's why trust is everything. Trust that your higher self knows what it's doing. Trust that each step is part of the path of least resistance to your desired outcome. Trust that you can't mess it up. And if you do that, you'll be amazed at how perfectly you will be led along this path that leads you to everything you ever wanted. So, to sum it up, first of all, set the overarching story. Know the bigger vision of where you're heading. Then once you've done that, bring your focus back to the present. Don't worry about the how. Leave that to your higher self. And from there, pick the option that feels best out of the options that are physically available to you in this moment, and do that. And don't see it as a choice that is going to last forever. See it as a stepping stone. See it as what you're choosing to do right now. Nothing more. And trust that it is all being orchestrated perfectly and that you are being guided along the path that is ideal for you. And if you do that, in hindsight, you'll see how it was all being set up in the most optimal way imaginable all along. So that's what I really want you to understand. You don't need to be able to see the whole plan. You just need to trust the step you're on now. And when you do, you'll find yourself looking back one day in amazement at how beautifully it was all arranged for you. That is it from me for today. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.